Holly Kouvo from Fitting Fitness In. I'm a personal trainer and nutrition specialist, and welcome to Get Healthy with Holly. Today I'm here at the Healing Garden in Harvard, Massachusetts, and it is an integrative support center for people going through cancer. And as you can see around us, this building is surrounded by beautiful gardens, and we'll show you a little more as we move along. But today I'm going to be talking with Nadine Mazzola, and Nadine is going to talk to us about forest bathing. So thank you for being my guest.
I'm delighted. Thank you for having me, Holly.
Thank you. And Steve, my husband, is going to be here because he's very big on outdoors, and I thought he might be interested in what forest bathing is. Thanks for being here, honey.
You're welcome, honey.
So Nadine is a guide, trainer, and a mentor with the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, and also the founder of the New England Nature and Forest Therapy Consulting, which is based in Acton. And Nadine has written a book, Forest Bathing with Your Dog, which won a bronze medal in the Best First Book Nonfiction category from the 2020 Independent Publisher Book Awards. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Very honored.
And I asked Nadine to be on my show today because mental health has become a big issue in our country, and forest bathing is a great way to get out there and de-stress and be one with nature. Whether you're outdoors in a forest, or you're in a park, or you're just walking along a paved trail like the Acton trail that everyone walks on, it's a very healing place. And as a matter of fact, you actually teach a course here at the Healing Garden, right?
I do. I bring in forest bathing and expressive arts together and teach, right now it's a course called Art and Nature, and just exploring our connections with nature. And we combine both art and just discussion and reflection on nature.
That's great. And I'm sure that it's very helpful to all of our clients here. Okay, so let's talk about forest bathing and what it is and where did it come from?
Yeah, so the term forest bathing, it's not a shower in the woods.
No bathing suits today.
And really thinking of it as almost like taking in the atmosphere of the forest. And that's actually some of the literal translation from the Japanese word shindin-yoku. Translates into taking in the atmosphere of the forest. And the inspiration for forest bathing here in the United States came from Japan and their practice of shindin-yoku, really when their population was experiencing a huge tech boom and a huge spike in stress-related illness corresponded. And so the Ministry of Health and Agriculture and over there really started studying what were different things they could do to support the population. And one of the things they studied was spending time out in nature. And since then, there was and still is a tremendous amount of research going on about spending time in nature. But I think if I were to just chat with you and your husband here and we reflected on, how is it to just be outdoors and how do we feel before and afterwards, that we just kind of know in our bones that it's the place we go to relax, to when we're upset or when we're angry, that we can just kind of restore ourselves and calm down.
Right, and I know with Steve, he goes on his hike every day, and he just needs that. It's after a day with dealing with IT stuff all day long, sitting in an office, he wants to be out and about, right?
It's very true. Very true.
Yeah, and so since there's this whole kind of practice that's sprung up around it in a way, and forest bathing is one of the ways to spend time out in nature, but it's also, spending time connected with nature is something that we all evolved doing. So for me, I feel like it's really getting back to that and really reconnecting with that in whatever way is right for each of us.
And so what do most people experience or get out of the experience of forest bathing when you take them on a tour, I guess?
Yeah, so usually it's just relaxation. It's an amazing way to activate the relaxation response and increase our variable heart rate, which is good for our variable heart rate, as I'm sure you can explain to the viewers. And so just kind of that calm, that relaxation, but also, people can have just insights, they can express things. Time and nature can kind of restore our creativity, or we get inspiration from. And so that often, although it's not something we strive for while forest bathing, like it often just arises on its own.
Right. Well, your brain is a little more at rest. There's not as much going through it. You can take in the atmosphere, and it's a bit more calming. And when you're calm and not having racing thoughts, then more things can come to you.
Yeah, and one of the things with forest bathing is that contrasting it with like the hiking, or maybe like being in nature and doing naturalist activities where we're more learning and using our mind or our activity, is that we're really just a bit more calm and we're using our senses to connect. And so it's really prioritizing sensory connection. And again, that kind of teleports us really into this instant presence, and being here and not focused on getting there, and instant awareness of just what's around us and connection to what's around us.
Yeah.
So could I ask a question in regards to so when you're out there, do you stop frequently as far as like in forest bathing, or as you're going through the forest, or
Yeah,
trail?
so on a typical forest bathing walk that's guided, we might maybe go a half a mile or a mile at most. So we are spending a lot of time pausing or slow wandering or sauntering, the way Thoreau would call it. And when doing it by ourselves, it's like a slower pace. I might stop, or I might wander slowly. When I'm out with my dog, I'm really taking her pauses and incorporating them and kind of taking advantage of those moments.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Would somebody benefit from doing that on their own, or is it better if they start by doing one of your tours, or let someone to lead you through it?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I want to say both, because whatever is right for each person is really what we prioritize. And I think just like taking many different kinds of classes and activities we do these days, being like thinking of a yoga class or some exercise class, there's a lot of benefits for doing it in a group. Chief among us is just that somebody else is holding the time for us, and we have permission to focus on ourselves. And then there's also the aspect of being with other people and being able to share that and just kind of share what we're noticing in a very light way. So I personally have a bias for doing it with others in a group. But as we just talked about, doing it on our own or when we're walking our dog can also be really wonderful. So I invite people to try both.
That's great. So give us a little tease of what forest bathing is. I know that normally your guided tours are hours long and we don't have that time, but give us a little tease on what we need to do to experience that.
Yeah, so I think we offer a series of invitations, and we use that word specifically so that folks feel free to adopt or adapt what we're doing to whatever feels right for them. There's no one set way to experience or do these different invitations. And then in between invitations, we gather and we share a few words, which is also light and optional if folks want.
Great. Well, let's do it.
All right. All right, so I'm just going to guide us in like a taste of what we might do to start a forest bathing session. And this is an invitation, and it's called Pleasures of Presence. And so I want to invite us to just look around for a moment, just kind of take in this spot. And if it's comfortable, in a moment, I just want to invite you to close your eyes, or maybe just take a soft gaze looking at something that feels comfortable. And just gently bring your attention to your sense of smell. See what you notice with your sense of smell. Maybe there are different scents in different directions. Perhaps turning your head a little bit. even tilting your head up and back the way an animal might or the way our dogs might. Just taking in whatever you might be noticing. And then gently switching to your sense of touch. Just maybe noticing on your skin that's exposed or skin that's covered by your clothing. Just seeing what you notice with your sense of touch. Maybe even rubbing your fingers together. What's it like to have a sense of touch? And again, just allowing yourself to take in whatever you might be noticing with your sense of touch or your sense of smell that you're enjoying. And as you're maybe noticing your sense of smell, maybe just taking a couple breaths in whatever way feel comfortable. And just noticing what it's like to breathe. And then gently switching to your sense of hearing. And just taking in the different sounds that are accompanying us here today in this spot, in this garden. Maybe allowing yourself to notice the sounds nearby or further away. And again, just letting yourself be drawn to whatever sounds you find most curious or pleasing. And even now, switching to our sense of taste, perhaps take a sip of air as if through a straw. Just seeing what you might notice from the air. Is there a taste or a texture to the air? Maybe something from a meal or a drink that you've had. When you're ready, just gently allowing your eyes to open, perhaps as if this were the first time you were seeing this place, and just take a look around. And when you feel ready, I'd love to just offer us the prompt. What are you noticing? And whoever would like to share can share.
It's interesting when you isolated each sense, how much more aware you were. Like breathing it in, it felt musky and earthy. The sounds, we have water behind us, we have birds chirping, we have wind going through the trees. When you just stop to actually listen, you hear all that. When you're walking really, hiking through the trails, you don't always stop to hear that.
Yeah, I would say too that the senses of hearing, of the breeze, of the brook behind us, of a few of the horses that you could hear in the distance, that just taking in the sounds was really pleasant. It was one of the most pleasant things for me was the sounds.
And smelling the horses.
Yeah.
Not so bad.
For me, I was noticing the sense of the air touching my skin on my arms and kind of feeling its movement and kind of feeling the sunlight in different spots and the coolness.
Yeah.
And also the sound of the brook.
Every once in a while, I got a scent of flowers or some blooming kind of scent too that came through on the wind.
Yeah. So
this is wonderful, and we really lucked out with a beautiful day and this beautiful gardens here at the Healing Garden.
Yeah. So I'll just take a moment to say that that's how we often start our forest bathing programs, and it's really about kind of opening our senses, awakening our senses, and connecting to place wherever we may be. And then we go on to do some different invitations that maybe slow us down and then invite us to explore more closely the place where we are, and then sharing throughout if folks would like. And
What other kinds of invitations would you do?
well, often we might just notice motion, wander and kind of, or sit and notice what's in motion. And that's a great invitation for really helping our monkey mind slow down. And it's one of the things we start with after opening the senses, so that our mind has a chance to kind of go through its normal ups and downs, and then to hopefully to settle a little bit. And then just exploring, they might be more interactive invitations, things that are like, wander and find a spot that you feel drawn to, and just kind of hang out there for a while. Or find a being, meaning like a tree or a plant or the stream that you feel drawn to, and just hang out. And sometimes we'll even offer like, is this tree or the stream have anything it would like to share with you, or you would like to share with it, and kind of invite a different kind of conversation with nature. Yeah, and sometimes we'll even do things where we gather found objects and create something, and that can be done individually, or sometimes we'll bring them back and do them as a group. So it really depends on like what's there on the land and the day, and what the guide feels inspired to offer. And when we're doing forest bathing on our own, I think it's really about, as Steve said, to just kind of notice when you want to pause, or you're invited to pause, and noticing what's there, and kind of just allowing, like as you both said, allowing ourselves time to linger,
Right.
and notice. So I want to just, Holly, you brought us over to the spot that you felt drawn to over here by the ferns. I feel like it's this little room, and this is absolutely the type of another invitation that we might do, is to like wander and find a spot that you feel drawn to. And so today, Steve and I are joining you here in the spot that you've felt drawn to and have led us to. But I'm just wondering what drew you over to this spot.
I've always loved fern that covers the ground. It just is so beautiful and calming to me. It feels like a little bit prehistoric, like from the Land of the Lost, the TV show, or the movies that we used to watch for the kids when they were younger. And my grandmother's name was Fern, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. It just is just peaceful and calming.
And Steve, what do you notice about this spot?
I love the motion of the ferns, the contrast of sunlight and darkness and shadows in them. It's just a different, all that whole sea of green that just sways in their movement in the wind. It's just very peaceful and beautiful.
For me, I just like the space. It feels like we're among all these friends that are kind of waving their happy presence around us, and our
Oh, that was perfect.
equine friends. And we just have this little spot to kind of hang out that feels very inviting. And so as another invitation, I just want to invite us to just sit and look around and maybe notice motion, but not just with our sense of sight, but maybe with any of our senses, or all of our senses. Just noticing motion, or noticing whatever your attention, whatever is asking for your attention. And we'll just do that maybe for a couple minutes.
I love that. I don't know what it is, tree, but the branches are coming down, reaching to the ground, and it's kind of like, here, I'm here, whatever's on the ground, if you want to climb up, go ahead, climb up. Definitely noticing the horses, they want to be noticed.
Yeah. Just seeing the movement of the clouds passing by, and then in total difference to how the branches sway in the trees, just all the movement going on today. It's amazing.
I also was noticing the clouds and the different ways that each of the trees is moving, the sound that the leaves and the water's making. I was saying hi to one of these little ferns over here and touching it. Yeah.
Also the cold stone of the bench that we're sitting on,
Right, yeah.
which is
So
kind
it's
of nice and cooling.
Yeah, yes, it is.
So this is also a big part of forest bathing, is kind of just letting our attention follow whatever is asking for it, whatever we're curious about or enjoying or drawn to. Contrasting it with meditation sometimes, where we're almost focused on our kind of noticing an aspect of ourselves and maybe letting other thoughts go. We're really more looking outward with all of our senses and just allowing ourselves to kind of follow whatever we're drawn to.
You open up to it more.
Yeah, and then the sharing is a big part of it. And folks are always welcome to pass if they don't feel like sharing, but just being able to kind of hear what different folks are noticing is both like, oh, I was noticing that too, or wow, I didn't even notice what you noticed. And
Right.
it's just great to hear all the different stories.
I think this is great because, when we go hiking, you just keep moving pretty much, and you stop once in a while to take in a view. But I think that this is much more calming and introspective, as opposed to, hiking for the exercise of it, but you have to go for the mind of it too.
I find there's certain spots on the trail that I'll stop at, and there may be as I go along that I particularly like, and I do tend to take pictures too, which may or may not be it's not necessarily the forest bathing, but it's still, I enjoy certain spots, and there's many of them like that I will stop at, and sometimes I'll stay there for a while. That are very pleasing, and you kind of look forward to those.
Yeah,
I
and
definitely do.
Thinking about what you're just sharing, and I think like absolutely hiking and forest bathing can go together, and I think it's really even noticing when you pause and letting ourselves pause as long as we want, and not
Right.
oftentimes we push ourselves along before
Right.
maybe we're really ready, and kind
Right.
of giving ourselves permission to linger, and then, again, just kind of evoking that thought of Thoreau and the art of sauntering and just lingering, and then moving on when we're ready.
And I find that some of those spots are like ones with lots of opportunities to look. There's an esker that you hike on in the Red Acre Wood near Pilot Grove Farm, and that esker has some fantastic views, and so there'll be a spot there where I'll stop and I can look in multiple directions, and sometimes it's wildlife. I've seen coyotes there, I've seen deer there, and so it's like it's or out to a pond where you come out and there's a view of a beaver pond, or I'm personally drawn to spots like that where there's lots to see.
And you're mentioning something that is also, that Holly actually also did when she brought us over here, is like noticing what we're drawn to, not only with our minds, but like kind of our bodies, if you will. It's like, oh, I want to go sit in that spot, or I want to look at that view, or I love when I come out to the pond and it opens up and the beaver dams are there. Of kind of appreciating that kind of felt sense of place. And giving ourselves time to connect with that as well.
And letting ourselves disconnect with the rest of the world. I mean, everything's so digital and go, especially here in the Northeast, that We need to just chill and be and experience as opposed to go, go, go.
Yeah, we always like to say that forest bathing is about being here, not getting there.
Oh, that's a good one.
Very good.
Awesome. Well, where can people find out more about your tours if somebody wanted to go on a forest bathing tour with you?
So on my website, which is nenft.com, I have my schedule up there. My name's Nadine Mazzola, and you can Google me and Google forest bathing. I also offer programs at Tower Hill Botanic Garden a lot.
Nice.
And at other places, and also through the trustees of reservations. Although these are both places based in Massachusetts, where I am, and I know this show will be seen far and wide. And there are many guides all over the country, all over the world for that matter. So people can look up a local guide if they want to go with a group, which I highly recommend in addition to doing some forest bathing on our own.
Wow, that's great. And one of the things I saw when I was doing a little bit of research is that, forest bathing helps with your immunities, with your heart and respiratory health, as well as depression. So it's all good.
Yeah, it really is. It also increases our concentration and our creativity. As you mentioned at the beginning, it restores our attention. The trees, all plants have their own kind of essential oils, if you will, and they all kind of emit them whether we're aware of it or not. And in particular, conifer trees, the Japanese did a bunch of research on the essential, they call them phytoncides, but they're essentially these essential oils, and that there are specific terpenes in those essential oils that the conifer trees are emitting that are really good for our immunity.
Oh, wow.
And they're also part of the tree's immune system and how they communicate with themselves and with the other trees around them to fight off different pests and whatnot.
Wow, there's so much to learn. We can't get into everything today, but if people want to access your website, I'll have that information up on my website, fittingfitnessin.com. It'll be under the Get Healthy with Holly tab. I'll also have a link to your book, Forest Bathing with Your Dog. And I just want to thank you so much for being here and for giving us a little taste of what forest bathing is.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to share this practice with you. It's like my joy these days, so I'm always really happy to share it.
That's awesome. And thank you, honey, for being on the show again.
Thank you. Thank you, Nadine.
And I'd like to thank you for being with us, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Get Healthy with Holly.